I'm Neil Walters from Canon Collective, and I'm here today to talk about shooting video with natural light. So when we're setting up our camera, the first thing we want to look at is to make sure that our shutter speed is double our frame rate. So we control our shutter speed on our top dial. I'm shooting at 50 frames per second, so my shutter speed will be at 100. I'm going to be shooting down at a very low aperture. This will ensure that my subject's in focus and our background is nice and blurry. So now that we have our shutter speed and our aperture set, the last thing to look at is ISO. Now, it's a bright day outside, so I'll have my ISO set down to 100. My shutter speed's at 100 and my ISO is at 100, and that's still too much light. So what we do from here is add a filter to the front of our lens. So once we have our ND filters on, we can see now that that's perfectly exposing our video. So when you're shooting with a subject, especially on a day like today where we're out at a beach, what you don't want to be doing is shooting with direct sunlight the entire day. For starters, you're going to have someone that's squinting at you, and it's going to be very glary and a bright subject. So this is where we can use indirect sunlight and working with the sun behind us. And you can even look at bringing in something like a reflector to work with also to bounce back light onto your subject. And here I'm going to explore the difference between using a tripod and handheld. Using a tripod in this kind of scenario will allow us to have nice steady movements without any shake on our camera whatsoever. Now if we take it to more of a handheld situation, you can see that I'm allowing myself to have a little bit more movements when my subject's moving. It's got a little bit of shake, but not too much. Now because I'm shooting with a subject today, what I also want to look at is my AF method, which is my autofocus method. I'm going to set it to tracking mode, which is our facial tracking mode. What this will do is help track my subject and make sure that I don't have to be manually focusing while I'm moving or while my subject's moving. My camera is going to do that all for me, which is another great feature of the 5D4. We also want to touch on the movie servo AF mode. Because today I'm going to be using my internal mic for recording, I'm going to set that movie servo mode to disable. Therefore, you won't hear a hunting sound when the camera's trying to hunt for focus. It'll make that sound nice and quiet for you. So one more thing to touch on before we start shooting is picture style. Now if we go into our red third menu, you'll see it says picture style up the top. Now I have that set to faithful, and if we go into our info set button, you can see that I have it set at all of my sharpness all the way down, all of my contrast to 0, and my saturation down by 1 stop. This will give me the closest setting to a raw C-Log style video where I can edit it as much as I'd like later on also. Now shooting video with natural light, it's great to watch a tutorial about it, but it's best put into practice. So come down to one of our workshops and play around yourself.